recording.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As you can see, most council members are here this morning. Councillor Horvis is attending via Zoom this morning, and I think you can see him up on the screen behind me. With that, I would like to call the meeting to order, and I would like the resolution for the adoption of the agenda, please.
Resolve the agenda of the meeting be adopted as circulated with the noted additions. Communication for information 10.4.3, letter of February 23rd, 2021, introduction, new CEO.
Okay, anything else that should be discussed that's not on the agenda today? Go ahead, Councillor Sutherland.
I just want to bring up later, just want to update on our ditch cleaning, that's all. If we're ready to do with our ditch cleaning, or if we are, that's all. Just,
Okay, well, just a Public Works update.
yeah,
Okay,
please.
all right. With that, can I ask for a mover, please? Councillor Bazaroj, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, our public hearing, and I know that's what you gentlemen are here for. It doesn't start till 10 o'clock, so we're just going to do some general business until the time rolls around. So if I could have the resolution for the confirmation of the minutes, please.
Resolve the minutes of February 23rd, 2021, regular meeting of council, and March 2nd, 2021, special meeting of council be adopted as presented.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Strang seconds. Any discussion? Corrections? Go ahead, Councillor Horvis. Go ahead, Councillor Horvis.
I don't think he has anything.
Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
In March 2nd, the minutes, I voted with the team and I voted for the subdivision. No, sorry, not for the subdivision, for the rezoning. Yeah, and it says that I voted against.
Oh. Okay, why would that have been noted? Was it a recorded? Oh, yes, because it was third reading for that.
It was third reading.
Yes.
And I did even go back and look on the video. Okay,
Yeah. Okay, so we'll have that corrected before we post it. Anything else? Hearing and seeing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, communications for action. Deepak, can you slide the screen down a bit, please? Thank you. The first item we have is the Manitoba Association of Regional Recyclers, and there's a webinar series and that they've invited us to, and I believe that when we did this before, we all attended here and watched it. Is that correct, Mr. CAO?
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, are we going to do the same thing this time around?
I will have it available here for any council members that are willing to come and attend.
Okay, thank you. So do you want a resolution just to pay the cost for those webinars, or?
Just a resolution for the attendance of
Okay.
the council and yourself. So what I can read the resolution for that.
Please.
Resolve Mayor Feeblecorn and council be authorized to attend the MMAR Developing and Implementing Effective Recycling Waste Diversion Promotion and Education Strategies webinar on March 18th, 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Sutherland in seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
so that'll be here, right, for those who want, 9:30 to 11:30. And then 1 o'clock we have our RRPD, will that be here as well?
I didn't plan to be here, but that's the next item here, so maybe we can discuss
Oh, okay.
it. Okay, Did I get I got a mover and a seconder, did we vote on that one, Colleen? Yes, okay. Okay, 6.3, Red River Planning District, invitation for all council education seminar, and Councillor Bazarowicz is correct, it is on the same day in the afternoon. I really hadn't planned on being here at all, so I'll be doing it from home, but Deepak, what would your suggestion be, please?
Well, Madam Mayor, it is an educational session. It's covering the cloud permit and some of the things that they're offering as part of that service. We can have that session here as well. And anyone that wishes to also connect directly to Zoom, they can connect from home. So any council members that wish to attend, I think I'll be attending as part of it as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have a resolution then.
Resolved, Mayor Feeblecorn and council be authorized to attend the Red River Planning District All Council Education Session Zoom meeting on Thursday, March 18th, 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Horvis seconds. Any further discussion? Councillor Horvis, do you have a question or are you voting? Okay. Okay, Councillor Horvis seconds. Any further discussion or questions on that RRPD education session?
What time is
That one starts at 1 o'clock, I
it?
believe.
1 o'clock. Thank you.
Okay, I got a mover, got a seconder, no questions. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, then 6.4 AMM, the Association of Manitoba Municipalities. There's an invitation for an education virtual workshop. And if we want the details on that, can you just pull up the invitation, please, Deepak?
Certainly, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
And I'll just share it so all council can see it. And it is a respectful workplace seminar, and it's April 8th as well as April 9th as a webinar.
Okay, and I did notice here that it was $100 a person, so did we want to register individually, or do we want to register as a municipality, and those that want to attend can perhaps come here and attend? Anybody? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I would say just do one as a RM at the RM office here and have everybody attend. I think a lot of this, or just questioning, is a lot of this still the same as what we've done our code of conduct?
I kind of think it might be, but I guess for me, Gord McIntosh, I really like him as a presenter and as a, I guess, a guru on municipal, focusing on municipal business, so.
Great. Good
Yeah.
speaker.
Well, I put it this way, I prefer him to George Cuff. So,
He's not as dry.
no, that's right, so. Okay, if we could just have a resolution then, and we'll pay the one. The only thing is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Colleen, you may know on this one, I know at one time AMM used to keep track of council members and how many courses they took. And some council members, and I know I was one of them a while back, were recognized as having achieved a certain point in your, I guess, leadership. So I don't know if you want to do it separately in order to get those points. Maybe we could check with AMM, with Donna, and see how that would work.
Sure.
Okay.
They
So
still have the program.
I think they still do, but Colleen or someone in the office administration will check with AMM and see, and then if somebody does want to attend on their own, then we have to pay another $100 fee. So once Colleen has that information, I think the resolution reads for all of us to attend in any event, so it would be just a matter of the cost. Go ahead.
Is it April 8th and 9th? Is that two?
Well, I think it's, if they fill up on the 8th, they have a
Different
second section on the 9th, so.
Yeah, there's only 25 attendees per session, so.
Well, we wouldn't know until we register because the 8th might be full, so we might have to do the 9th. So that's another thing that the administration might have to check on when we send that in, so. Okay, if I could have the resolution, please, for that one, Mr. CAO.
Resolved, Mayor Feeble-Corn and council be authorized to attend the AMM Respectful Leadership webinar on Thursday, April, and will we be going with 8th or 9th?
I have the 8th marked down.
8th.
Added the resolution 8 or 9, depending on whether it's full or not. 8 would be the first choice.
So to the webinar on Thursday, April 8th or 9th.
Okay, can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, second. Councillor Strang, any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, I think the next one is 6.5 on our agendas, which is MANC 2021. And that's a sustainable energy virtual conference. And Deepak, if you could just pull that one up for us, please.
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Councilor Harvest, can you see the, I'll just share it just to play it
I
safe.
think Councillor Horvis is not there at the moment. Or his screen is off in any event.
So the invitation's on the screen right now, Madam Mayor?
Yeah. Okay, so this is, and I did read this one yesterday, I thought it was kind of interesting because it's 3 different sessions and they're all in the evening, from 7 to 8:30, 3 different evenings, March 23rd, March 30th, and April 6th. And we all have that in our packages, so I don't know that we need to go over everything, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that this was an evening conference, so. Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we're gonna have some conflicts here. March the 23rd, when is that?
Planning meeting.
Well, no, it's not a planning meeting, that is, we moved that council meeting from the 23rd to the 30th, I believe, so there's actually 2 dates that are out.
30th is out for sure.
The 30th is out for sure, the 23rd we didn't have quorum because of the public hearing in Selkirk, so last meeting we did change our meeting date, or no, that's on today's. Yeah, to change our meeting date from the 23rd to the 30th. So there is only the one. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Councillor Spicer. So I'm not sure if somebody wants to go. I think it's $25 a session, if I remember correctly.
I think 15.
Correct, $15 a session and $25 with a conference, with also a membership.
Yes, and I don't know that we have a membership for that, so. So is there any interest, like I don't know, with the public hearing on the 23rd, I know that some of us will be presenting at that public hearing. So I'm not sure if you want to attend or whether we should just pass on this one or leave it open for now. Comments, anyone?
Question.
Go ahead, Councilor
The
Pascal.
public hearing on the 23rd, that is for,
That is for Selkirk's request to withdraw from the RRPD.
and what time is that? Please, sorry.
I think it starts at 6 o'clock. I'd have to look at the ad again. We'll have some discussion on that a little bit later in our meeting, but we've talked about that a few times already, that was the day that public hearing was going to be. So what have we got there, Mr. CAO?
Well, Madam Mayor, we have listed all 3 available, so it may be that you may be only able to attend one. We could pass the motion that all 3 are available, and then we'll see who can attend which ones.
Sure, I think that would work.
Resolved, Mayor Feeble-Corn and council be authorized to attend the MAD-C Towards a Sustainable Energy Future webinar on Tuesday, March 23rd, Tuesday, March 30th, and April 6th, 2021.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Boulanger, Councillor Bazaroler seconds. Can I, any questions? Comments? This one will kind of have to play by ear a little bit. Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
I was just going to say, a lot of them do a recording of it, that they send it out later, and other that we can, because sometimes there is good information that some of the other
Yes.
Zoom presentations that we have, that they do send out the recorder, and you can look at it or grab other information off of it.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, if there are no other questions, I have a mover, I have a seconder, I'll call the question. All those in favor, opposed, and that is carried. Now we will move into our new and other business. And the first one there is the letter from the provincial assessment branch for our Board of Revision. And I don't know, do we normally pass a resolution for that? So if I could have a resolution for that one, please.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Resolved, council agree to the date of November 10th, 2021 at 1:30 p.m. for the Board of Revision for the 2022 assessment rolls, and information is received in time the added taxes under section 3261 of the Municipal Act.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer. Councillor Boulanger seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. The next one is the contract for the municipal yard maintenance agreement. And I believe we have some information there. Mr. CEO, did you want to please comment on that? I know there was a decision paper there.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just share the decision paper and speak to it. As you know, the work around the building, some of the yards for grass cutting and maintenance of the flower beds and shrubs and so forth. There's been issues in the past. Last year, we used Gellers to provide that service, and there were very little to no complaints at all based on that. We've received a new contract offer from them with some slight increases, and our recommendation is to accept this proposal from Gellers to proceed with them to maintain our flower beds and our yard.
Okay, thank you for that. Any comments or questions from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Strang.
Do we tender it out usually?
Well, I guess actually, Deepak and I had a bit of that conversation, and I think last year, I believe it was last year that it was tendered out, but I don't know that we're going to do it on a yearly basis, and I don't know, Colleen, maybe you can enlighten us. Was it a one-year contract, or was it a couple of years where we would just accept the increase year to year?
It was a 1 year.
It was a 1 year, so. At this point in time, I don't know if council wants to contract it out. I know they did a lot of good work, and I know I got lots of positive comments about how the yard looked compared to previous years. So I think it's one of those things where maybe, you know, it could be tendered maybe next year if council so wishes, or we could tender it this year. But go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I think my preference would be go ahead this year, but maybe if we're going to retender it, maybe we should do a longer term. It's just a thought. We don't have to do it every year again.
If we do tender it, depending on what council wishes, if they wish to us tender, we would probably do it similar to various other tenders of service contracts where we do it for a number of years with an option to renew for other years if necessary. So it's council's wish, we could tender next year and then do it in that fashion.
Is council okay with that, leaving Gellers for this year, and then we'll tender it for next year, and maybe it could be for 3 or 5 years? It's, you know, depending on what kind of costs we get. Maybe we could ask for the tender to provide costs for a 3-year contract and a 5-year contract and see what we get next year.
Sure.
Okay, that sounds good. If you could read the resolution for this year then, please, Deepak.
Resolved, the service proposal of Gellers Enterprises at an annual cost of $11,093.66 plus taxes to provide landscaping services for the municipal office be accepted and the CAO be authorized to sign.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Bazarowicz, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead.
if I may, I have some people in the waiting room. I'm going to let them in. I think they're here for the public hearing, and then you can decide when to start the public hearing. We still have a few minutes, but I'll let them in right now.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question? Am I okay to not wear this mask, or?
As long as you're sitting in your chair,
Well,
as long as you're sitting there, you should be okay. Once you get up, if you come to the front
yeah.
to speak, you should take it, or you should put it on as you come up, but once you're sitting down, you can take it off.
Fair enough. I got hearing aid, glasses, and
Oh,
everything else in the way it is. Okay.
good morning, Mr. Thomas. Good morning, Mr. Kozak.
Morning.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Sinclair.
Good morning.
Okay, we will start the public hearing very soon, but Chief Smith is not in our council chambers yet. So we will carry on with our regular business for a couple more minutes until she arrives, but you're more than welcome to stay and listen to the goings on of the council here.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, there was just the 3 people waiting to come in, Deepak?
So far, that's all I have. Is
Okay.
all kind of in that.
Okay, so we are down to 7.3 on our agenda, and that's the waste management strategy. Did you want to go into that one now? This one may warrant a bit more discussion, I'm not sure.
Yes, Madam Mayor. On the waste management strategy, what we're bringing forward is a resolution to proceed with the waste management strategy that was identified. First reading of the solid waste bylaw was read by council in January of 2020. And since then, due to COVID and unsure of the issues around it, council's intention was to have some public consultation and some possible open houses or webinars in this case. And so what we're recommending is that now that we have a good handle on our level of communication and ability to engage the public and how to hold public sessions in these COVID times, we're recommending to proceed with the waste management strategy and begin the dialogue with our residents.
Okay, so basically there is just a resolution today to proceed with the strategy.
Correct, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to get you to read the resolution. I know it's a little bit longer and we all did have it in our packages, but I would ask you to please read that for us.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the solid waste bylaw was given first reading January 7th, 2020, and was understood that at that time it would be needed for advertising for ratepayers and gathering meaningful input. And whereas in order to address the challenges with the gathering input during COVID-19, at that time the RSA compliance put on hold the decision about new waste management fees. And whereas council wishes now to begin the consultation for the establishment and operation of a solid waste management system. Therefore, be it resolved that the administration begin the public education sessions for bylaw 1 of 2020 prior to second reading of the bylaw.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Strang, Councillor Boulanger seconds. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Most of this campaign will be on computer Zoom, or that's going to be most of the engagement is on.
Yes, we are thinking that it will be via Zoom, depending on how many people, like if there are a lot of written presentations and only, 4 people registered to speak, we may be able to do it here, but it is a public hearing and we never know how many people may attend at the office, so that could cause us some grief. Unless we have everybody who wants to present, advise the office ahead of time that they would like to be here, whether it be via Zoom or in person. That might give us a little bit better handle on how many. And I see Colleen has something to share. So go ahead, Colleen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our intent is to provide enough information to the residents in advance of the hearing so that we can answer all of the questions with the hopes that there will be as many people attending the hearing. That's the way we did with a lot of our past communication projects, and it was very successful. So that's our goal, is to try to get enough information via newsletters, via individual emails, putting stuff on the website, pointing people from Facebook and Twitter to our website for more information. So that's kind of the big goal. And then webinars, as our CAO was mentioned earlier.
Okay, anything else? Go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
If in this campaign we're giving some information regarding our transfer stations, it may not be just getting questions answered via email to individuals. So if that's the case, are we willing to go to the rec center or somewhere else if we have a lot of people show up at one?
Well, we wouldn't be able to go to this rec center, and I guess, depending on how many people we do have, we could look perhaps at the East Soccer Hall.
Okay.
It's got a pretty big space in there. We could go to Corpus Christi, I guess but we do have to make a decision on that ahead of time, because if we have to advertise where the public hearing is going to be, we have to put that in place.
Okay.
Comments, Mr. CAO?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, you're right. Part of this, we have engaged the services of a consulting company, a communications consulting company, who will give us opportunities to engage our residents through various mechanisms, social media, as well as webinars and some other opportunities that we're looking at. As the Assistant CAO laid out, that what we'll be doing is looking at the best way to get as much information out in advance, be able to address those questions before second reading. And when the time is for the second reading, we will advertise a location and determine at that point if there's enough interest and the size of the location. It could be the fire hall, it could be any other location that we can find at that time. It is anticipated that at that time there may be more opportunities to accommodate other individuals. Maybe the restrictions would be lifted by then. We don't know.
Okay, so do we have a resolution for this?
We had read out the resolution, and that was the questions after the resolution.
Okay, so I have a mover, I have a seconder. Anything else before I ask for to call the question? Hearing and seeing nothing, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, I see Chief Deborah Smith is here, and we will go back up on our agenda to our public hearing for this morning. And we will have to have a resolution to go into our public hearing rather than our regular session of council. Mr. Administrator, do you want to read the resolution to enter into the public hearing, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Before you do that, I see Councillor Horbus has his hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Horbus.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I have to, this will be a conflict for me because I have property on the road.
Okay?
gonna have to excuse myself.
Okay, thank you for that, and if you just want to shut your screen off and mute your microphone, we will let you know when we are going to head back into the regular meeting of council.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
Resolved, the regular meeting be adjourned and the public hearing be open for Colonization Road renaming.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Spicer, Councillor Sutherland seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Okay, Mr. Administrator, how did you want to proceed here? Did you want to have Chief Smith come up first, or did you have some information that you wanted to relay prior to any of the delegations coming forward?
Madam Mayor, I can read off is the administrative comments and the supporting information, and then we can receive delegations after that.
Thank you. And if you could go ahead then.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, in regards to renaming of Colonization Road, an official request was received by our neighbors of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation to change the name of Colonization Road. An initial request to rename the road was received in the summer of 2020. This request initiated the following sequence of events. On September 11th, we had a meeting from our council with the St. Clements of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. On September 14th to discuss, on September 11th to discuss the issues and the requests we have been receiving in regards to Colonization Road. And then on September 14th, a joint press release was issued stating that in the spirit of reconciliation, the two communities will embark on a collaborative approach to seek a solution to this difficult topic. On September 18th, a letter was sent to the residents living on Colonization Road, notifying them of the upcoming renaming. At that time, it was also identified that a policy needed to be established in order to deal with renaming of roads in the arm of St. Clements. If you just hang on 1 second, I've got another person attending the waiting room, and I've just let them in. And on September 21st, a letter was received from Broken Head Ojibwe Nation officially requesting the name change. At which point we were working on the policy, and the policy was adopted. And on November 17th, policy 344, street naming policy, was adopted by council. Recommendations as per policies are, in the next steps, is to set a public hearing date and ensure notification is sent to the affected parties at least 14 days prior to the hearing. Council is also committed to working with Broken Head Ojibwe Nation so that notification should also be sent to them. In this, further to this, part of the policy was also, as council has a heritage committee, which provides direction to council. It's a committee that council has adopted. All renaming events also go to them, so they were given an opportunity to comment on this. And so what I'll do is go on to the supporting documentation. And so with the supporting information, the following lists of names were submitted for consideration and have been sent to our Heritage Committee for their comments. Comments on the submitted names are from the Heritage Committee and are in italics below. So the Heritage Committee, the request was in regards to a possible name change of the older families would be the Johnson family who framed the area in 1912.
Could you share the impact, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can't follow along. Thank you. There, thank you.
Can you see that? Okay, great. In regards, just as a pretext, the Heritage Committee is also used when new subdivisions are created in the RM, and so they provide input as to what heritage aspects could be used when names are created. So under that context, they provided the following comments. In regards to a possible name of the older families, would be the Johnson family, who farmed in the area in 1912 at the edge of Devil's Creek, or the Goodman family who farmed in the area in the 1920s. Either of these names would be my choice. However, there may be others who currently live along the road, such as the farm at the south side of Devil's Creek. Do not know who they are, was one of the comments. The emails that were received were, one was for Reconciliation Road, and it was also strongly suggested in that email by the person that a plaque be installed explaining the history and why this name was changed. Reconciliation, the comment from the Heritage Committee was Reconciliation Road might be a bit controversial as it needs considerable background information to understand the meaning. Also, as the naming of the roads were initially to honor and recognize contributions to the RM of the early inhabitants or pioneers in the area. The other option that was provided was Copperhead Road, and the Heritage Committee said that they were not sure of the background for this name. The other option that was provided was Cossack Road, and this name was suggested by a great-grandson of the Cossacks, and it said, I just got the word that the RM is waiting to rename Colonization Road by Lebo, and I think that naming it Cossack Road would be ideal due to the fact that my great-grandparents' homestead is on the road, and they moved there in the 1909, and the homestead is still owned by a Cossack to this day. The Cossack name, as the Heritage Committee commented, would be appropriate as well, as it was a very large family who lived in the area and for many years, and one of the Cossacks were also involved in the local school district. Another option that was provided was Heritage Road, the roads that cross through the country and is all part of everyone's heritage, is perhaps not specific enough. I think what they were talking about, Colonization Road, that I think is crossing through various different communities named as Colonization Road. We're not sure what the intent there was. Another option was given out was Cordwood Road. Colonization Road in Lebo was made of cordwood in the 1900s, and this was a way to travel by horse and buggy. Might be of interest. If some did not understand what it meant, a sign might be required to interpret it, were the comments made by the Heritage Committee. Two additional names were provided, was Sergeant Tommy Prince, and the comment from the Heritage Committee is that it might be more suitable for a road near the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation as we create new roads in the area. The other is CCR Way, was sent by Roger Destelz. Having been living in the road for nearly 20 years now and have had people know me as CCR, Coca-Cola Roger, from driving my red symbolized van down this road all these years. And this was received late, and we did not receive any comments from the Heritage Committee on it. The comments are, our Heritage Committee has also stated that the RM of St. Clements has in the past developed some signage for some of the roads with information as to who the road was named after, such as Buns Road. It could be appropriate if this practice could be continued. The RM committee has usually paid for the sign, and the locals involved looked after the installation of the posts required. And that's the information Madam Mayor provided, and then we can certainly receive delegations.
Thank you for that, Mr. Administrator. So what I'm going to do now, we do have a number of people who want to speak. There are some in person, and there are some that are on Zoom that will be speaking this morning. So I'm going to start things off with our delegations by inviting Chief Smith to come forward and make her presentation. And I believe, Deborah, you know everybody that's here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All but that's some.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is Councillor Spicer. He's from Ward 1. Councillor Gazarowic. You know Councillor Sutherland over here. You know Councillor Strang, I'm sure. And I'm pretty sure you know Councillor Boulanger. No? Okay. And Councillor Horbis declared a conflict because he does have property on the road, so he will not be taking part in this discussion for the public hearing. So with that, I will let you go ahead, Deborah.
Very good. Good morning. So I'm going to open up with a traditional Anishinaabe welcome greeting. So we should, I'm going to dinner with my what that means is, hello my relatives, my name is Eagle Woman, and I'm from the Caribou Clan. It is my honor to be here this morning to represent the Anishinaabe people of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. In our language, we call Broken Head Basgandabe Lusipi. That is the name that our people use for the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, which is situated on Treaty 1 territory. I would first like to acknowledge the leadership of the RM of St. Clements, Mayor Abelhorn, and her council, and acknowledge the proceedings in which I am invited to speak here today, but also commend the council for working with our community to begin a process of renaming Colonization Road. I wish to acknowledge also a member of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, Mr. Earl Betty Prince, who brought this issue back to the forefront and whose efforts helped get the process started for the Council of Broken Head Ojibwe Nation, and therefore prompting us to send that letter requesting the name change.
Deborah, can I just stop you there? I just want to make sure that those that are on Zoom can hear you. Mr. Thomas and anyone else who is on Zoom, can you hear Chief Smith speaking?
It's kind of tough, yeah, it's a little bit shoddy here.
It's a little bit shoddy. Okay, we're going to see if we can, sorry about that, I just thought of it as we were talking here. So we're going to give Chief Smith a microphone and hopefully you will be able to hear her better. Just what you need, Deborah.
I'm soft-spoken, so
I'd like to hear the evil woman part again.
Okay, just say a couple.
Did you say evil or?
Deborah, I was going to get you to say a couple of words to see if these gentlemen can hear you.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
You might have to speak up. Mr. Thomas and the rest, can you hear Council or Chief Smith now?
No, not really.
Is this thing on?
No, you might, you know what, Deborah, I know that I have a lot of trouble. You might have to hold it.
Okay. So I might have, okay.
Yeah, is that better?
I don't think that's working.
I don't think it's working.
It's not working.
Okay,
Sometimes those batteries die out.
okay. There you go.
They can't hear.
No, we're getting a different microphone, and hopefully after that we'll hear.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Nope.
Right now.
Yep. Hello?
Hello?
There's one.
I think we're there 3 later.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay. All right, so.
That's better? Okay, thank you for that. And I'm just going to ask Chief Smith to proceed here, please.
Okay, I think I'll probably start over again. Okay, so Buju and Adinaway Maganaduk, Nigazay Quain and Dishnikas and Tiktutain. So in our language, Buju is hello, and Adinaway Maganaduk is my relatives. My name is Eagle Woman, and I'm from the Caribou Clan. It's my honor to be here this morning to represent the Anishinaabe people of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. In our language, Broken Head is Basgandabe Lizipi. I want to first acknowledge the leadership of the RM of St. Clements, Mayor Feeble-Corn, and her council, and acknowledge these proceedings that are happening and taking place today and for the opportunity for me to speak here, and also want to acknowledge the council for working with Broken Head to begin the process of renaming the road. I also want to acknowledge a Broken Head band member, Earl Buddy Prince, who brought this issue back to the forefront and whose efforts have helped get the process started for our council to send the letter of request to the RM of St. Clements. The history of colonization in Canada is a painful history for the Indigenous people of our country. There is no other word that I could use that could describe that. I stand here before you, or I sit here before you today as an Anishinaabe woman, and can speak firsthand on the impacts that colonization has had on me, but also the people that I speak for. I also use this opportunity to provide some historical facts that may help the listeners here today understand why the people of Broken Head and why Broken Head supports the name change of Colonization Road, and offer to assist in that process of change. I firstly want to share with you a quote from the TRC report that was released in 2015, because I believe that it sets the context for the colonial policies that were at the heart of Canada's Indian policy. So the quote that I'm referencing says, "For over a century, the central goals of Canada's Aboriginal policy were to eliminate Aboriginal governments, ignore Aboriginal rights, terminate the treaties, and through a process of assimilation, cause Aboriginal peoples to cease to exist as distinct legal, social, cultural, religious, and racial entities in Canada. The establishment and operation of residential schools were a central element of this policy, which can be best described as cultural genocide." The Indian Act was created in 1876 by the federal government of Canada for the purpose of gaining legal power and control over the rights and identities of First Nations people. The Indian Act is one of the most archaic and assimilative laws on the books, and the government of Canada continues to rely on this piece of legislation to really disadvantage First Nations peoples. Many different policies came about through that Indian Act, and one of the most damaging, I believe, was the residential school system. But it was also the beginning and the creation of the reserve system, which was a government-sanctioned displacement of First Nations people to further assimilate Indigenous people. Sir John A. Macdonald also signed an order in 1885 which prevented Indigenous people from leaving their reserves without permission, and this is known as the pass system. The Indian Act paved the way for many other pieces of legislation, such as in 1880, the Indian Act was revised so that any Indian who earned a university degree, or any woman who married a non-Indigenous person or unregistered Indian would lose their Indian status. The loss of status amendment lasted for 105 years until 1985. According to Article 32, Section 1 of the Indian Act, a band member was not allowed to complete any business transaction with their cattle, grain, plants, or products with anyone outside of the band unless they had the superintendent's approval in writing. In 1884, the Indian Act introduced prison sentences for anyone participating in traditional Indigenous ceremonies. In 1927, Indigenous people were denied their right to organize politically. Also in 1927, it was made illegal for First Nations people or communities to hire lawyers to bring about land claims against the government without the government's consent. Many Aboriginal veterans fighting overseas for Canada during the Second World War returned home to discover that they had lost their Indian status because the Indian Act specified that Indians absent from the reserve for 4 years were no longer Indians. But I think history can tell us that the most devastating colonial assault on Indigenous people in Canada was the residential school system. I want to share a statement that was made by the first Prime Minister of this country, Sir John A. Macdonald, in the House of Commons in 1883, stated that when the school is on the reserve, the child lives with its parents, who are savages. He is surrounded by savages. And though he may learn and read and write, his habits and training and mode of thought are Indian. He is simply a savage who cannot read or write. So this type of mentality is what I think drove a lot of the policy that I talked about. And it is, I guess it speaks to what those policies' true intentions were. And it was to separate children as much as possible from their parental influence. And the only way to do that was to put them in these schools where they would acquire the habits and modes of thought of white men. For over 150 years, residential schools operated in Canada. Over 150,000 children attended these schools. Many people from Broken Pit attended schools, residential schools in Manitoba. Some traveled and attended school in Elkhorn, at the Elkhorn Residential School. Some attended residential school at the Fort Alexander Residential School. And some attended residential schools in other parts of the country. I myself attended a residential school, and I am an intergenerational survivor of this system. Through the work of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, we now have a greater understanding of the tragedies that our people have endured during their stays at the school. We now know that many suffered neglect and physical, sexual, and psychological abuse while enduring harsh living conditions under the pretense of gaining an education. Today there is more awareness of the experiences that the survivors of Indian residential schools endured. We have a greater understanding of the trauma and its impacts, and our communities are still grappling with the trauma that has been passed on across the generations. In our community of Broken Head, we see the impacts of collective colonial, our collective experience manifest itself through trauma-based behaviors of addictions, violence, incarceration, and involvement in child welfare system.
Debbie, can you bring that mic up?
Yeah. While we work towards reconciliation, I am hopeful that the next generations of Canadians are now in a place where we are learning more about the legacy of Indian residential schools. And each year, school children wear orange shirts to honor the memories and the survivors of the Indian residential school system. And in my eyes, this is a good thing. And we must continue to walk on a path of mutual respect towards a society that is just for all, and that makes room for Indigenous people, and makes room for conversations that are difficult. I want to close by with a quote from Cindy Blackstock, who is a human rights activist that has challenged the federal government on its discrimination of children that live on reserve. But she was recently quoted as saying, "If we can raise a generation of non-Indigenous kids who don't normalize discrimination and have the tools to peacefully and respectfully advocate for the end of this kind of apartheid system, then we'll be in a position where First Nations children never have to recover from their childhoods again, and non-Indigenous children never have to say they're sorry. So it is time to dismantle colonial public symbols and monuments, including offensive names that normalize colonization, and it's time that we work together to build a country that is deserving of our next 7 generations. Miigwech, and thank you for the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you very much, Chief Smith. I'm just going to see if any council members have any questions. I know I do have one, and I don't know, maybe one of the other presenters that is here from the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation will speak to it, but we were wondering as a council if there were any specific names that came to mind when you were having your discussions with the band council that council could consider.
Well, I think when we met back in September.
You want to use the mic so we can all hear you? Sorry, Deborah.
Oh my goodness. So I think when we met back in September, you know, one of the names that was brought forward was Reconciliation Road. As I sat and I listened to, you know, the recommendations from the Heritage Committee, they had maybe felt that that name would be too controversial. You know, and I respect, you know, that position. However, I think, you know, we're living in a day and age where we have, you know, undertook the Truth and Reconciliation Commission report that came out in 2015. Manitoba has passed in its legislature an act for reconciliation, and I think sometimes controversy brings about positive change, and but I think that would be probably the only name that was discussed in those early discussions. But I also heard that there were many names referencing early settlers, and we have to be mindful and respectful of, you know, the history of the RM St. Clement's history as well. It was nice that they also, the Heritage Committee, also you know, put forward the suggestion of Sergeant Tommy Prince Road. You'll know who Sergeant Tommy Prince was. He was a member of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation and one of Canada's most distinguished and highly decorated Aboriginal soldiers that fought in World War II and in the Korean War. So I just wanted to acknowledge that recommendation by the Heritage Committee and would welcome that as well.
Okay. Thank you for that. Okay, I do see that there are some of your band counselors that are attending virtually, and I think I am going to let them speak first, and then we will take the other presenters after that. So I'm just going to go in the order that I see them on my screen here as band members from the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. So Kevin Thomas, could you please give your presentation?
The main presentation, I was just doing your list listed as just like to say thanks and acknowledge your council there for bringing this forward to make this change of colonization. Very much appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Kevin. Mr. Sinclair.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I didn't prepare a presentation either. Our understanding was Chief Smith was going to speak on behalf of the council and give her presentation. So I'd like to thank yourself and your council for the inclusion of our chief council in this. And thank you for meeting today to have a renaming of colonization road. Thank you.
morning and just look at and say that, yeah, thank you for taking this opportunity or whatever to move on this. I know this is something that was brought up for members of our community, one in particular, was very vocal about it. And, I just want to wish everybody well. We want to say also thank you to yourself, your council, and all of your residents in this county or wherever that's participating in working hard to change this and make it look different on all parts. And also our friend Dave, there's from around the legal area, many friends in the legal around that area, and all those good friends with people from our community. And with that, yeah, I'm just listening and participating. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Alan. Okay, I don't believe that there's anybody else from the Broken Hill Ojibwe Nation on Zoom. I know that there is, Mr. Kozak is on Zoom, and I will get back to you, but I do have a couple of people in the council chamber that are going to present, and I'm going to let them present first, and then we'll go back to the Zoom presenters. So I guess I do have Todd Holmes. Did you want to come forward and speak? We're just going to get the desk cleaned.
Sorry, still on the draw here.
That's okay.
Mayor, I appreciate that. My wife has immune deficiency disorder, so she's equivalent to a person who has AIDS or cancer. So if she contracts this, we'll be having treatment.
Yeah, no, we clean everything after every presenter. So the only thing is I'm going to ask the council members to check their microphones. So we may have to use a different microphone for each presenter so that everybody can hear. Oh, Colleen's going to do that one and the microphone too. Okay.
Hands okay. Can we record? Before I begin, I would like that's better. Before I begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the chief for her comments. I have to say, you've taught me more about Aboriginal history than I ever learned in school. And that's one of the things I'm going to address here as well. I indulge your patience to listen to the end before you determine what you feel like I'm trying to say, because I'm a bit of a anomaly, as you'll find out. Good morning. I stand before you today as a resident of the municipality of St. Clements and a homeowner on Colonization Road. I am white in appearance, but Métis by birth. So why are we here today? To right a wrong by changing a road name. How are these changes going to impact us, impact our community, or impact society? Will it change the past? Are we truly prepared to make the changes we elect to do, and do we see the impact of making changes during the pandemic? Is this name change meeting the needs of all groups involved, or does it serve some groups above others, repeating errors on another group? So today we attempt to right a wrong by done by our municipality, community, and society a long time ago. What we do today, however, will not change the past and truly do very little to right many wrongs. Our name change will not change the justice system, the foster system, the employment system, the welfare system, the healthcare system, nor the many injustices that some parts of our society incur daily. Although changing a name is a good gesture, it is a more emotional than logical in impact. As a child, one day I asked my grandmother about her native heritage. She was a very short, tiny, soft-spoken woman with a deep tan complexion, and her nickname was Tiny. The response I received was not what I had expected. She was angered, and her fierce response burns in my memory. It left me never wanting to speak again of the matter, and my extended family laughs when they talk about the verbal lashing I received that day. What was it that made her respond the way she did? Following her death years later, we discovered her secret. Our forefathers were Cree. So today, I'm a red-headed white man with a mix of Cree, but with a heritage and history lost. How could have that history sculpted my life? Where could I have learned, and what would we have learned? Clearly, emotions were higher than logic for my grandmother. When I moved to Lebo in 2010, there was no street sign on Colonization Road, and it could not be found on Google. Contractors, friends, and family needed turn-by-turn instruction to find our road. For 911 concerns, I spoke to the municipality for signs and Google to put us on the map. Then in 2015, we built our home. This time, contractors confused us with Colonization Road in Gimli. Thus, the name has been a problem, and simplifying it to 84 North would make simple sense. For the record, Reconciliation Road was one of the names I proposed to council, or through email and plaque. However, our emotions to complete this task overriding logic in executing this plan. 2 weeks ago, the police were dispatched to our residence on an emergency call. The 10-minute ride turned out to be a 40-minute response time. During my wife's conversation with the arriving officers, it was discovered that they could not find our road. Later investigation revealed that our street signs were removed, that our already difficult road to find now has no name, again, to the general public or 911. So the question is, who removed our signs? Who put our family's safety in jeopardy for 911 calls? Who is putting emotions over simple logic? Who is not thinking ahead, planning ahead? So what is in a name change for me personally? Not my family, but just me. "61 address changes primarily online, some direct pays, other accounts. 7 of those changes are government. 3 of those government accounts cannot be changed online. 2 of these are CRA business related to my family company in another municipality. One of the CRA account that may be impacted took 3 months of red tape and hours of phone calls to get access before we had COVID-19. So everyone is clear about the CRA and business. Follow these words very carefully. It is complicated. At present, the addresses feature cannot presently be changed online at the CRA, while the access point, which is my bank, can. The bank address must be the same as our home address when registered for direct payments and the CRA. Thus, security can become a roadblock to the CEWS and CERB or employment insurance with Service Canada. For myself personally, when the address conflict, thus creating a security breach. Now here's our federal government's workload. As of March the 5th, 2021, the CRA and Service Canada have yet to acknowledge my receiving and repayment of CERB back to the CRA as of June 2020. Due to this, I cannot complete my taxes until the paperwork catches up. When questioned on 3 separate occasions as to why, I was advised that Service Canada was overwhelmed and have not completed it. The CRA transferred the CRB to Service Canada and then transferred it to CEWS. The CEWS forms are completed online with the CRA for the company. To speak to this government organization, it took 3 separate phone calls, each taking 90 minutes to make contact and numerous disconnects. In short, if my address access point at the bank is severed to the CRA and the Service Canada, and I need access to COVID-19 economic impact due to COVID-19 economic impacts, I will not be able to do so. Thus, essentially, funds during an economic crisis will be denied, and I could face personal and business losses. If I face a financial loss as a result of this name change during the pandemic, I am forced to launch a legal action against the municipality of St. Clements for these financial losses and stress caused to all the individuals impacted. Unfortunately, this is a simple fact. So before anything is passed, you better have plans in place for the CRA and CEWS. Let me be abundantly clear. Changing the name, yes, I agree with. Name preferred 84 North or Reconciliation Road. The timing, not now. Let us wait until we are clear of this pandemic, and let us be real. The name change will not solve the problems we need to change. In June 2020, prior to my daughter's graduation from high school, we learned of the developing programs for Métis and youth to assist and educate. I'm also seeing more talk of Aboriginal programs for the future of our youth. This is where our efforts need to be concentrated. However, we are missing the opportunity to educate those outside of an educational program, those that have greater influence in the present. On this North Shore, on the island of Oahu, we learn how the Polynesian people are sharing their culture, their challenges and successes at the Polynesian Cultural Center. This private center has less resources available to them than our Métis and Aboriginal nations, but greater success. We can learn from them and other nations how to wrong rights and develop better understandings of each other. To succeed, though, we must be wise, logical, and not emotional. The changes of the street name is logical, but the timing is not. Not having signs up in 2010, then not having signs up now, then pushing through during a pandemic is unwise. I propose further investigating the impact of a change during the pandemic, selecting the name, putting up a plaque at the end of the road to ensure history is not forgotten, educate everyone by opening centers that can share the Métis and Aboriginal cultures, history, and challenges. There is far more to changing this name. It is to right or wrong, but it is much more than contacting the post office to make this change. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Todd. Okay, we do have a couple more presenters, and I'm going to call on Roger Desilette to come up as soon as Colleen. Desilette to come up as soon as Colleen gives the desk a little clean there, sanitizes everything.
So am I okay without this?
Once you're sitting down, yes, you are. Okay. You can share your words of wisdom with us, Roger, please.
Okay. First, I'd like to say that my name is Roger Desilette. I live on Colonization Road. I've been there for 20 years. And again, you know, I worked for Coca-Cola for 35, so CCRA was my suggestion, not that I care. But I do want to say that the only thing that bothered me about Colonization Road until now was when I had to spell it for people when I was selling something on Kijiji. And like I said, until now, when I seen the recommendation to change the name, I read more about it, colonialism, and yes, it made total sense, Deborah, to me that you would want to change that name. I only hope that it could be something short and sweet. Reconciliation, with all due respect to me, is a little bit long, and it's just, I don't know, that's my theory. I would like something shorter and sweeter, maybe based on the history as well, and the settlers around there, whatever it may be. But I just would like to say that I understand colonialism a lot better now that this was brought up. I did read a lot about it, and I'm willing to get the name changed as well. I'm supporting our neighbors, our brothers, sisters, as well as Todd is, but I do have that concern on everything that Todd has talked about. With COVID and everything, I think it's important that we take that into consideration until it slows down, because I think this could cause a lot of chaos in during tax season and everything else that's related to this change of name. So nevertheless, I have respect for what is going on and the request to change. It's all part of reconciliation, I understand, and I hope the best and wish the best, and just hope we have a little more patience in getting it done rather than rushing into it. That's all I have to say, and I also want to say that, you know, my father used to tell me I'm hard of hearing, and that gentleman right there in the corner is very clear and loud. And thank you for making yourself clear. It's been nice talking to you all, and I respect your wanting this meeting about this, and I hope you have respect for what our considerations are. Thank you.
Thank you,
We're
Roger.
having trouble here. Darn thing came out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, I do have one person on Zoom that I believe wanted to speak, and that would be Sid Kozak. If you want to go ahead, Sid.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for this meeting today.
Before you start,
I believe that
can you please identify yourself, because I don't believe you are Sid?
No, I'm not. I'm Corinne Kozak.
Thank you.
Married to Sid.
Thank you for that, Corinne.
Good morning, everyone. I am part of the I guess settlers at the beginning of Legal area, and I was one of the people that had made a suggestion for please, Mr. Holmes, I absolutely agree with it being named Legal North, because we had a situation also with emergency vehicles. They could not find Levo on the map, and they could not find it through their GPS. And it just makes a little bit more sense, because it is a legal area to have it as legal north. I believe myself that it put legal on the map. I understand the colonization side of it. My mother was a foster child with the Thomas Plan, who built big Bible camps in Victoria Beach, so I understand both sides of the coin. And with all due respect, I just believe that as it being legal north just makes a little bit more sense, and it kind of takes away all the confusion with everything. And I think that's all I have to say today.
Okay, thank you for that, Corinne.
Thanks so much.
Okay, I guess a couple of things, and one of them is that I know that once we started our process here, and I believe it was in the local paper when we did have some discussion, we did have a call from Fort Frances, Ontario, who also wanted to follow the process, because apparently there is a colonization road in that area, and they wanted to go through the same process. And I'm not sure, Mr. Administrator, do you have more to add to that when Fort Frances contacted us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we did share the information and as to some of the reasoning why we were in the process we followed. And my understanding is Fort Frances has made the change since then to a different name. I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I do not have the name as to what they changed it to, but they changed it recognizing the same issues. And it has started a dialogue, generally speaking, I think, throughout the country now. And I think that's a good thing.
Okay, I guess, Chief Smith, I'm going to ask if you have anything that you want to add after you've heard everybody else speaking. And I know that you know, council may not be prepared to make a decision today. I think we've heard quite a bit of information here regarding, you know, the different names that we could use. I know that we had talked about it previously, that when the name change finally is done and we put up the new road sign, we may put a plaque or something in close proximity to explain why that road name was chosen. I think we discussed that as a council, that there might be, you know, benefit in us putting a bit of an explanation as to why the road name was changed. After hearing some of the comments today, I'm not so sure that, you know, we want to maybe rush into this, but I'm going to let you have the last word and see what your thoughts are on after hearing everybody speak.
So I don't need the microphone.
Okay. Yeah, just speak up a little bit so your council members can hear you.
Okay. So can I take?
Yeah, you can.
So I guess first of all I wanted to just thank again the council for having this public hearing, but also the other residents of St. Clements who provided their comments. And I believe that, you know, your comments as residents of this municipality need to be heard and need to be taken into consideration by your elected council. For, I guess, my response in terms of some of your due diligence, it is due diligence that you're going to have to do to, you know, make sure that it's not only the postal changes, but, you know, you've raised the issues of CRA and those implications. And, you know, I'm not here to say that I want the name changed tomorrow. I understand that it's a process and respect your internal processes, but I also understand that the name will eventually get changed. And the work that we did last year when we met is a step in that direction of change. And, you know, you have processes, we have processes. I just respect the fact that we are here listening to all interested parties. You know, they're given their due process, and I'm really happy that, you know, we have come to an understanding of why that name needs to be changed. And I welcome also the suggestion of the plaque at the site that will recognize, you know, why it's being changed. I think that's a good act of reconciliation, but also a description of what it's being changed to, which roots it into your historical, you know, connection to this land. So with that, I just want to say miigwech.
Miigwech. Okay, council, any comments or questions? I think we have a lot of information. Council will have some further discussion a little later on in their meeting, but our CAO will give you the information that whether we decide to hold off for a little while. I guess the one question, and it's been brought up a couple of times, is replacing the road name blades. I'm not exactly sure how we can replace them before we change the name, because I don't believe that we want to cause any more conflict if we have to put up Colonization Road again. I think we can perhaps look into temporarily maybe calling it 84 North, although it doesn't go, I guess 84 North is usually the, it veers off, and that's, we had talked about 84 North, but because of the way the road goes to the north, we're not sure if that would work. But we will have a discussion, and perhaps we can name it 84 North on a temporary basis until we get the rest of this resolved. I'm not sure, you know, how that would work with everything. For right now, I believe for mailing addresses and things like that, for your CRA and all those things, I don't believe that you have to rush to change anything at this point in time. We may even talk about the pandemic. We don't know how long we're going to be in this pandemic situation, and I don't know that council or yourselves as the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation want to wait another year before it does get changed. So that's some research that we're going to have to do. So go ahead, Councillor Boulanger.
Just, I was gonna add that if when we do come to a decision on what name we're going to go with, that Mr. Holmes is notified far enough in advance that he can make the appropriate changes with mailing address changes. I know that takes a long time. As soon as possible. I mean,
right.
Sometimes when we come to a decision on these things, the actual implementation of the sign doesn't happen for 2 months.
Yes.
So I'm just saying, once we know, don't wait 2 months to tell Mr. Holmes, tell him.
Right, and we would obviously tell the Chief Smith and the council, you know, when we have determined that name, even though it may not be the road name, blades may not be up right away and things like that, but as soon as we have made a decision, or if we have to have further discussion, we definitely will let you know, Chief Smith. So, Mr. Holmes, and then I see that our CAO has a comment.
When I am made aware that we can actually make those address changes with the CRA, I will let you know. What right now, if you attempt, and if you can all go home and try your own personal CRA account and just try to get into the section which allows you to change the name, it doesn't exist. It's been off for a couple months now. So that's the biggest problem for me. Once I can change that address, I'm good to go. It's not going to affect me. I will go through all the other changes I need to do. But my greatest concern as a business owner in another municipality is the pandemic has had an economic downturn on my industry, and we have needed the CEWS at different times. And if I can't access that, then I can't pay the employees, I can't pay the businesses, I'll have to close the doors. And that's why I'm in this really predicament, because I want to support the band, and I want to support me as a Cree, as a Métis, in these changes as part of the reconciliation, but I'm stuck with this federal government problem.
Okay, thank you for that, Todd. Go ahead, Mr. Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The intention of creating the policy in advance of having the public hearing was that as we were, there was no policy in the RM dealing with name changes. So the policy itself takes into consideration the fact that there would be costs associated to residents when it comes to doing a name change, and how to work on a methodology in order to pay back some of those types of costs. Because, you know, there's a filing fee with various levels of governments. There is also the ability for the RM to be able to make a name change and have it come into effect at a later point, which gives them enough notice, but at least gives the intent of council and a decision of council that this name is changing and that it's not delayed. As well, we would also, in light of the pandemic, before any kind of name change like this, be in contact with the federal government and any other agencies to make sure there are no hindrances impacted by either the municipality or the residents when we go to make a change like this, because we do recognize there are businesses sometimes on residential, on these properties. Lastly, I want to put it on the record, the RM did not remove the blades. Those were done by I don't know who, and that's it's unfortunate, and could be for various reasons, even for keepsake. You know, I'll give you an example of a municipality in BC where I think it's Old River Road or something like that, or Old Time Road behind some song, and the road signs kept on being stolen because it matched the song name, until the RM decided to making separate blades and selling them individually.
Could I just say a comment?
Sure, I haven't closed the hearing, so,
Well,
but you're gonna have to speak up, Roger.
Okay, as far as the Road 84, they are directly across from each other.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, for emergency purposes and everything, like they all go in numerical order, it's much more practical and simple to call it Road 84 if we were gonna go there and carry on with the monumental change that Deborah was requesting would be a good idea. I'm all for that, but to me, the simpler the better, not just for us, but for emergency services. That's all I need to say.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, I don't believe, unless Deborah, if you have anything more that you want to add, I think we have listened to all the presenters today. I should ask perhaps your council, do any of the Broken Head Ojibwe Nation councillors want to add anything after hearing everybody?
Yes, Kevin, you're okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hi, it's Alan, I'm good with everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alan. And Wendell, did you have anything you wanted? Go ahead.
Hi, Wendell here. Yeah, thank you. No, I have nothing to add. Just like to thank everyone and for including us today. Thanks.
Thank you for that. So with that, I am going to ask for a resolution to close our public hearing. And we will proceed with our meeting, and we will be in touch with the Chief Smith and the council and the residents in the area once we have a bit of discussion and kind of try and find the right path to go down to get this done in a timely fashion, taking into consideration COVID could be here for an awful long time. So with that, if I could have the resolution, please.
Resolve the public hearing for Colonization Road renaming be closed and the regular session of council be reconvened.
Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Vazarowicz, Councillor Strang seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. And with that, I'm going to call for a 5-minute break, and I'm going to ask that the recording be stopped for a few minutes, please.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Zoom recording is paused. We're waiting on that.